Kazakhstan is a country that needs no introduction on the global oil and gas market. Today, the republic produces 90 million tons of oil per year. Unique and largest oil and gas fields are located on the territory of the independent state. Except there is one little fact: Kazakhstan has no access to the open sea. This means that the transportation of raw materials and petroleum products is significantly complicated. However, this did not prevent the republic from regaining the status of a transit hub during the years of independence. Over these 30 years, such export systems as the Caspian Pipeline Consortium, the Kazakhstan-China Oil Pipeline, the Trans-Asian Gas Pipeline have been created and continue to develop, where in the integrated pipeline system, Kazakhstan plays a central role. The large-scale modernization of the oil refining sector opens up for the country new markets for the sale of highly processed hydrocarbon products.
I'm sure that the specialists of the oil and gas industry have not only improved, they have exceeded in achieving the set tasks. Today, all mainline pipelines are operating at full capacity.
Now all this sounds beautiful and proud, but behind these words is the grand relentless 30-year work of the entire industry. After all, Kazakhstan, as you know, inherited the Soviet oil transportation system when it was in a critical state. In the early 1990s, the transportation of oil by rail was in demand. We have all seen long railway trains and dozens of huge barrels of oil at least once in our lives. Tanks, to be more precise. Well, they're filled with raw materials on such railway overpasses. Here, at the Aktau oil pumping station, they used to deal only with oil discharge. Specifically, oil came here from different regions in trains. Such pipes were attached to the tanks, and then tanks went down the pipes to the pumping stations, where reservoirs were filled with oil. Now all this is done through pipelines, but they do not hurry to get rid of the overpass. Only this pleasure is not cheap. The most efficient and profitable way of transporting oil is by pipeline. The main transit of Kazakhstan passes through Russia. For most market participants, this was only 30% of the total oil production. Accordingly, Kazakhstan faces a difficult task at the dawn of independence. By the way, the first main oil pipeline in the country was built back in 1935. It connected the fields of western Kazakhstan with the Orsk refinery in Russia. The rest of the oil pipelines were built in the 1960s of the 20th century. In 1966, an oil pipeline was put into operation to transport raw materials from the Uzen fields to the port of Aktau. In 1969, Uzen was connected to the Ataral oil refinery. The meeting point of the pipelines usually looks like this. Here they intertwine. Through some pipes oil comes to the station. Through others it goes for export. For example, the raw materials enters the Aktau station through the Kalamkas-Karajanbas Aktau pipeline, and then after undergoing laboratory tests is sent through pipes to Uzen to continue its road to Russia through the arteries of the legendary Uzen-Atyrau-Samara oil pipeline. This is the first hot oil pipeline, since it is equipped with heating furnaces for highly solidifying raw materials of the Zhetebay-Uzen group of fields.
It was built in Soviet times. It is unique from the point of view of transporting so-called high-viscosity oil, the one that is extracted at Uzen. There, the setting point is more than 30 degrees. So it is necessary to heat it up along the transportation route.
Back then, in the 1990s, the highways that look good today had to be modernized and developed. Atyrau-Samara was the only export pipeline that was connected to the Russian oil pipeline system Transneft. And by the way, it was still necessary to break through to it.
There were restrictions. It was limited by productivity and certain regulatory provisions, so to speak, that determined the establishment of tariffs, export quotas, and the like.
However, Atyrau Samara already had its drawbacks. For companies that have high quality and therefore more expensive oil, it was not profitable to lose the market premium due to the fact that their oil was mixed with less valuable types of oil. For example, Tengiz raw materials, which are close to the premium class in terms of density, are much more expensive than the Urals grade oil from Russia. It is clear that mixing them means devaluing higher quality and more expensive raw materials. Since joining Kaztrans-Oil, Timur Kulibayev set the task of increasing oil exports by almost 4 times, up to 15 million tons per year. At first, it seemed that in such a short time the mission was impossible. As a result, what seemed impossible yesterday was implemented in a glimpse of an eye. The throughput capacity of the main export oil pipeline at the time, Atyrau Samara, increased to 15 million tons per year. On June 7, 2002, the governments of Kazakhstan and Russia concluded an agreement on the long-term transit of Kazakh oil through Russian territory. Since that moment, the oil and gas partnership between Kazakhstan and Russia has been expanding and solidifying. Meanwhile, the new export opportunities along the Atyrau-Samara route did not cover all the needs. The increase in the number of subsoil users required new export capacities and access to other sales markets. The country's political leadership has set a corresponding task for the oil workers.
The head of state set the task of creating a multi-vector system, and so we opened a window to the Black Sea.
The establishment of a new oil transportation export policy in Kazakhstan begins with building a reliable route for the delivery of the products of its subsoil users to the European market across the Black Sea. In the second half of the 2000s, Kazmunaygas acquired the Batumi oil terminal. It was intended that this decision would improve control over this transport corridor and increase the cumulative profit from the purchase of the Rompetrol oil refining and marketing group operating in the countries of the Black Sea and Mediterranean basins. This is an open market where different companies can buy. We, for example, have such partners as Mitsubishi, Mitsui, a Japanese company, and major companies such as Vitol, ExxonMobil, Shell, which are also the largest traders. Therefore, of course, there is interest in Kazakhstan oil.
Поэтому, конечно же, интерес к казахстанской нефти есть.
In 2004, Russia was ready to pump through the Transneft system up to 17.5 million tons of Kazakh oil. But by that time, Kazakhstan had a new priority: Caspian Pipeline Consortium. Its appearance significantly changed the nature of the export agenda for Kazakhstan. First of all, it is an international consortium. Second of all, it was supposed to be the result of high government agreements. And naturally, such a project as CPC was born and realized only thanks to the strategic intention and will of our leader of the nation, the first president, and an agreement with the Russian Federation. Subsequently, many international companies joined the project.
Это же был первый проект.
This was the first project when major oil companies of the world and countries like Russia and Kazakhstan decided to work together.
On the 30th anniversary of Kazakhstan's independence, the Caspian Pipeline Consortium also celebrates its jubilee. It was launched 25 years ago, and already in May 2004, the CPC system reached full utilization of the design capacity of the first stage, and all thanks to the commissioning of the 635-kilometer oil pipeline Aksai-Bolshoy Chagan-Atyrau. The Karachaganak-Atyrau transportation system is the main export route of the Karachaganak field. All stabilized liquid hydrocarbons produced here are sent through these pipes. They were built in 2003. And right at this place, the system goes underground. Despite the fact that we no longer see it, right here under the ground is a highway more than 600 kilometers long to Atyrau. There the system connects to the Caspian Pipeline Consortium. From there, oil goes through it all the way to Novorossiysk, to the Black Sea, and from there on tankers goes to Europe. An amazing journey. This is how in the first years of the CPC more than 21 million tons of raw materials per year began to flow from Kazakhstan to the system. But the majority, of course, were from the Tengiz field.
CPC is the main route today. If in 2019, 90 millions of oil was produced, then almost 61 million was pumped. 2/3 of the oil is pumped through the oil produced in Kazakhstan through the CPC. Today, it is a reliable and main route. This way, it ensures the development of the Tengiz field.
The place where the Caspian Pipeline Consortium receives oil from Tengiz. Just behind this fence, this is TCO, and here on this side, it is already the territory of CPC. Oil is supplied here all year round, uninterruptedly. But before going to the global markets, the raw materials pass through an oil pumping station, the first on a long journey. In total, throughout the entire system of such stations, 15.4 on the territory of Kazakhstan, the rest in Russia. To paraphrase the catchphrase, like an oil saved is an oil earned. That is why, first of all, it comes here to the metering unit. Here, meters are installed everywhere. They record every incoming cubic meter of oil. It comes here through these pipes. By the way, this unit is capable of receiving up to 2,000 cubic meters of oil per hour. For the record, with this volume, you can fill 100 railway tanks, and there are 4 such lines for a minute here at once. 2 more are planned to be put into operation in the near future. So consider how much more profitable it is to export oil by pipeline rather than by rail. Further, the oil undergoes laboratory tests, also here at the oil pumping station. Well, after that it leaves under high pressure through the main pipeline in the direction of the Black Sea. Here it is, 0 kilometer, the starting point from which Tengiz oil is sent through the CPC system towards Novorossiysk. Approximately every 100 kilometers, it passes through oil pumping stations. And each time with increased pressure, with renewed vigor, Tengiz oil from Kazakhstan is sent to global markets. Today, the CPC transports 2/3 of the oil produced in Kazakhstan. Today, CPC pumps over 1/3 of Kazakhstan's export oil. Since 2001, about 800 million tons of hydrocarbons have been shipped to global markets via the Tengiz-Novorossiysk system. From 2003 to September of 2021, tax revenues from the project amounted to 170 billion tenge. It is obvious that the CPC system is the largest oil export corridor from Kazakhstan. However, simultaneously with the European direction, it was important to grasp new sales markets. Kazakhstan turned its gaze to the east.
We started working on developing the Chinese option. It found a major support.
China's interest in cooperation with Kazakhstan is growing every year. In 1997, Nursultan Nazarbayev met with the Premier of the State Council of the People's Republic of China, Li Peng. An agreement was signed on the construction of the Western Kazakhstan-Western China oil pipeline with a length of 3,200 kilometers and a cost of $3.5 billion. The financing was provided by the Chinese side. In June 2004, the Kazakh-Chinese Pipeline LLP was created to implement the project. Kaztrans Oil JSC and the China National Corporation for the Exploration and Development of Oil and Gas were participants on an equal share basis. The first stage was the construction of the Kenkiyak-Atyrau section. At that time, only one oil pipeline led from Aktobe to the Orsk refinery. The connection of the Aktobe's region fields to the CPC and Atyrau Samara capacities ensured diversification of sales.
In 1997, on December 15, at 10 o'clock in the morning, 15 Chinese people came to see me. They said they wanted to invite me to choose a place for construction. I was thankful for their trust in me. For almost a month, we drove along the highway choosing the route. We finished in 1999 and received the conclusion of the Chinese and Kazakhstan export organizations.
Экспортных организаций и казахстанских уже готово.
While negotiations with a Chinese company lasted 6 months, the pipeline was laid in record time, 365 days. In 2009, the central link of the route, the Kenkiya-Kumkol section, was completed. The Western Kazakhstan-Western China oil pipeline has solved an important strategic task of the country. The main oil pipelines, Atyrau-Samara and Omsk-Pavlodar-Shymkent, which previously operated separately, now were united into a single system for the transportation of raw materials from the western region to Pavlodar and Shymkent refineries, with high mobility of switching oil flows to different markets. The total length of the Kenkiya-Kumkol-Atasu-Alashankou pipelines is 2,800 kilometers. The maximum throughput is 20 million tons of oil per year. The cost of the project is over $1.5 billion. Income to the country's budget is 60 billion tenge. 5,300 jobs were created during construction. In 2014, the transit of Russian oil to China began for the first time through the territory of Kazakhstan, along the Priortyrsk-Atasu-Alashankou route. In this way, the Republic has created a system which was so needed by other countries. Later, Kaztransgas agreed on the construction of the Kazakhstan-China gas pipeline. This is the main part of a gigantic route in terms of length and capacity, which connects the gas fields of Central Asia with consumers in the western, central, and southern parts of China. In its entirety, this gas pipeline is called the Trans-Asian Gas Pipeline. Its length from Turkmenistan to the border with China is 1,833 kilometers. Most of them, 1,300 kilometers, are part of the Kazakhstan-China gas pipeline.
According to data from the gas pipeline, about 340 billion cubic meters of gas have already passed through it. This means, again, a major transit revenue for Kazakhstan. We are sitting on crossroad. We are sitting between Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and China. We will become a large transit hub in Central Asia. A lot depends on it. And another bonus for us is that due to this pipeline, we are able to export our own Kazakh gas.
In February 2008, Kaztransgas and CNPC created Asian Gas Pipeline (LLP) on an equal share basis for the design, construction, and operation of the gas pipeline. The cost of the project is estimated at $6.5 billion. The extensive participation of Kazmunaygas Design's departments in the creation of a complex and gigantic facility testify to the high technological and intellectual level of Kazakh professionals in the oil and gas design and engineering sector. The work of these divisions of KMG has created the potential for the successful design of the most complex world-class facilities. The construction of the Kazakhstan-China gas pipeline has stimulated a new powerful wave of development of the country's gas transportation system. The main idea of this plant is to connect the western and southern gas pipelines of Kazakhstan in the same way as it was done with the oil pipelines. The creation of an integrated gas system makes it possible not only to efficiently control the flows of blue fuel. Benchmarks were much broader and more global. In December 2010, Bayneu-Shymkent Gas Pipeline (LLP) was created for the construction of the gas pipeline of the same name.
The southern regions have always depended on gas from Uzbekistan until we came and put into operation the Bayneu-Bozoy-Shymkent gas pipeline, which connected the western field with southern consumers. Gas was supplied from Uzbekistan.
Численности населения нашей республики.
By the population of our republic, we can assume that we are a very rich country in terms of gas. But all of them paid attention to the location of the gas in the west of the republic, and in order to bring it to the centers of northern regions of the republic and to the consumer in the south, it is necessary to lay long-distance gas pipelines.
The length of the main gas pipeline Bayneu-Bozoy-Shymkent is 1,475 kilometers. The road passes through the territory of Mangistau, Aktobe, Kızılorda, and Turkestan regions. Here, at the end point, the gas enters the gas metering station for counting and redistribution. I think there is no need to explain that the gas metering station is an object of increased danger. Not only is gas flowing through pipes everywhere, but also under the highest pressure of 100 pascals. It is as if you press on such a small stone with a box of 100 kilograms. Therefore, special attention is paid to safety issues here. Throughout the territory, such sensors are installed. They catch the smell of gas, and as soon as this happens, the system automatically stops all processes at the station to avoid serious accidents. The Bayneu-Bozoy-Shymkent gas pipeline is equipped with the latest technologically advanced equipment, and it is obvious why, since its goal is to not only fill the domestic market of the country with gas, but also to send raw materials for export, and this is more difficult. Gas production in Western Kazakhstan depends on this project. If, for example, earlier in Western Kazakhstan, gas was moving only in one direction, only to the border with Russia, now it is already possible to supply to the domestic market, and for us, the domestic market is a priority.
We didn't have natural gas. We used coal and wood for heating. It was problematic. The gas has finally arrived. I have been using this gas since the new year. The heating has been connected. If everything goes well, we will use gas for heating.
Дай Бог, если все хорошо будет, будем отапливаться.
Это действительно резко.
Indeed, gas dramatically changed the way of life, especially in the countryside, where you have your own yard, your own house. For housewives, it creates a domestic bliss. I started working as a young specialist in 1985 in the field of the Mangistau region. My first workplace was located in Jetebay. At the time, there was no gas nearby in the village, let alone the overall gasification of Kazakhstan. There was no gas infrastructure. These are all the fruits of independence. Today, we decide for ourselves what to do with our gas. Today, the gas transportation infrastructure of Kazakhstan even allows for a part of the gas to be exported, while satisfying the domestic market at the same time.
Alignment of the Bayneu-Bozoy-Shymkent and the Kazakhstan-China gas pipeline. Saying this word, it seems as if two trunk systems at one particular place are connected into a node. However, this is not entirely true. All this is a large alignment complex. Let's call it that. Bayneu-Bozoy-Shymkent was brought here from the other side. Here the gas is redistributed and sent for further purification to the compressor station. But this very place is considered to be the starting point of Kazakh gas, which goes for export to China. Before leaving for China, the goods actually pass through the compressor station system. The latest, modern equipment is used here. After all, huge volumes of natural gas pass through these pipes, 22,000 cubic meters per minute. It is like 2,250-liter gas cylinders, or 4 balls of the Bayterek monument. Can you imagine? Once again, this is the amount of gas per minute. It's about speed and volume in a nutshell. In the late 1990s, Kazakhstan laid the foundations for the development of yet another new oil export route. Later, on June 16, 2006, the presidents of Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan, Nursultan Nazarbayev and Ilham Aliyev, signed an important document. It was an agreement to support and facilitate the transportation of Kazakh oil through the Caspian Sea and Azerbaijan to international markets. This was the start of a completely new, long history of a unique and ambitious project, the Kazakhstan Sea Transport Fleet.
Since we have the Caspian Sea, it is clear that the development of the Caspian subsoil has begun. This is the Tengiz field. In general, the volume of oil production has increased, and this is thanks to the multi-vector policy led by the head of state. One of these alternative routes was the southern route, in a direction through the port of Aktau, Azerbaijan, and further through Georgia and the Black Sea. Accordingly, it was decided to create a shipping company in Kazakhstan.
Once, no one could have imagined that one day from the northern coast of the Caspian, tankers filled with Kazakh oil would set out on a long voyage. Now, not only has it become something ordinary, but also the ships are now also made at home. The Kazakh fleet, created from scratch in the first decade of independence, today, without exaggeration, is the best in the Caspian. Now, Kazmor-Transflot is an effective operation with regular income and great prospects. About 2 million tons per year transported across the Caspian Sea every year, and the Black and Mediterranean Seas about 50 million tons annually, 10 million tons by Kazmor-Transflot.
During the period from 2001 to the present day, we have transported over 130 million tons of oil. We have transported about 70 million tons of oil inside the Caspian Sea. Also, the company is already operating in the open seas. We have a large fleet, the so-called Fromax. For the Caspian Sea, it is 12,000 meters. In the Black Sea, it is 120,000 meters. Tankers are 10 times more. Therefore, I can say for sure that the company continues to transport oil. The company does not stand still.
Like the mainland oil pipelines, Kazmor-Transflot makes a significant contribution to the country's economy. It is based on reliability, environmental safety, and economic efficiency. These are the main principles of the entire oil and gas industry of the country. By the way, if the transportation of raw materials is one of the key links in the oil and gas chain, then the pipeline system itself is not only about the pipes. Oil pumping stations play an important role here. There are dozens of them in Kazakhstan, but just here in Mangostau, there is an oil pumping station which is worthy of special attention. The unique oil pumping station Aktau is the only one in Kazakhstan that fills tankers with oil. As you understand, it is located right on the seashore next to the seaport Aktau. Oil is supplied here from several fields on the Buzachi Peninsula. Here, in a local laboratory, raw materials undergo quality examination. Some are stored in tanks. If necessary, everything else is sent to the consumer. Using 3 different ways, which is important. There are no analogs of such station in Kazakhstan. As a rule, raw materials do not stay here. Oil is received. The tanks are filled. By the way, they're different here. By 5, 10, and 20,000 tons. After all the necessary procedures, the raw materials are sent to consumers via high-pressure pipeline or by tanker across the Caspian Sea. Once upon a time, in order to switch from one reservoir to another, it was necessary to manually turn the valves. People had to work under the scorching sun in incredible heat. Now the system is fully automated. And just think about it. The most important thing here is that it is all managed by one person.
Previously, everything was done manually by turning the valves. Reservoirs, selection, everything was manual. And now, everything is automated. I sit here around the computers and supervise the work of the entire station.
Even the movement of tankers can now be monitored on the screen of your smartphone. When Kazmor-Transflot was created, it was hard to imagine such a thing. The current general director of the company, Aidar Rozhanov, got a job as Kazmor-Transflot as a data entry specialist in 2001. In 20 years, he climbed all the steps of the career ladder to the position of the main leader. And today, when so much has been completed, there are even more plans for the future.
We want to build ferries. This is the idea we have been thinking of for a long time. And to transport goods that come from Kazakhstan. Wagons with petroleum products, with final petroleum products, and so on.
Over the years of development of transport infrastructure, the oil and gas industry has reached a completely new level. The national company Kaztrans-Oil, using its capacities, expanded the geography of Kazakh oil exports, opening world markets for itself in different directions. Thanks to a smart and correct policy in the field of transportation of raw materials, the state has increased oil production from 16 to 90 million tons per year. And this despite the fact that the country has no access to the open seas and oceans.
Today, we have a diversified pipeline system that allows us to export oil both in the direction of Europe through the Atral-Samara and CPC pipelines and in the direction of China. These are our main export directions. The oil industry today is the locomotive and, figuratively speaking, the blood of the economy of Kazakhstan. The importance of the oil industry is certainly difficult to overestimate. Therefore, I think the oilman can be proud of what has been done up to now, of what is being done today, and we, of course, look at the future with confidence.
For 30 years of independence, Kazakhstan has built a powerful oil and gas pipeline network. Mastering new directions, the country has chosen its own path, the path of development, cooperation, and great prospects.